The White Elephant, a Burmese folktale. Many years ago, in a village near Rangoon, there lived a washerman. His name was Yunam. He was clever as well as hardworking. After working many years and saving every cent he could, he was able to open a laundry shop. In fact, he did so well that he soon had 7 washermen working for him. Now it happened that in the same village there lived a potter. His name was Yutin. Yutin was not only stupid, he was also lazy. So, although he had been working for a long time, he never became rich. What little money he earned, he soon spent it on drinking and smoking. In fact, he was as poor as he had been when he first started working. Yutin couldn't see others being more successful than he was. So he took a strong dislike to Yunam, the washerman, who was everything that the potter wasn't. He began to tell wicked tales about Yunam. Of course, these tales were all untrue. Yutin would buy drinks with what little money he had for anyone who had time to listen to him. But the washerman just laughed at the stories Yutin told. This made the potter even more angry. Now, the king of Burma at that time had a big, very big grey elephant. But what the king really liked to own was a big white elephant. This was because many people in Burma believed that white elephants were holy animals and only kings could keep them. So it was well known throughout the country that His Majesty would give a big present to anyone who could bring him a white elephant. The stupid potter thought it a good idea to play a trick on the washerman. So one day Yutin went up to the king and said, "Your Majesty, it's well known throughout the country that it's your wish to own a white elephant. I know of a man who can give you that wish. His name is Yunam, and he is a washerman. Everyone knows that he has a secret powder that enables him to wash anything whiter than anyone else. So it will not be too difficult for him to wash your grey elephant into a white one. May I humbly suggest that your Majesty command him to do just this?" The king was greatly surprised at what he had just heard. He liked the idea very much, and to own a white elephant was all going to be so simple. After thanking the potter for his kind suggestion, the king at once sent for the washerman, who rushed to the palace immediately. Yunam couldn't believe his ears when he heard what the king wanted him to do. How could anyone wash a grey elephant into a white one? The washerman knew at once who put him into this big trouble. Being the clever fellow that he was, he quietly replied, "Your Majesty, it's true that I am the best washerman in the land, so washing your grey elephant is no trouble at all. But I am only a washerman, and I know only how to wash the animal in the same way I wash clothes. For this job, I need a big pot to hold the elephant while I do the washing. And I know just the person who could make this big pot. He is Yutin, the potter." The king was very pleased to hear that the potter was the man who could make the big pot. So there should be no difficulty in his wanting a white elephant after all. He thanked the washerman for coming to see him, and at once sent word that the potter be called to the palace. Yutin hurried to the palace, and when told to make the big pot to hold the elephant, he nearly fainted. But he couldn't refuse the king's order, as it was he who first suggested the idea. So the potter went home with the help of his whole family and many relatives, set about making the big pot. After many days of hard work, the pot was completed. This the potter delivered to the king in a bullock cart specially built to carry it. The king was very glad to see the big pot and at once sent for the washerman. Yunam arrived with a team of washermen, all ready with plenty of soap and water. The huge elephant was then lifted gently into the big pot. No sooner was the elephant put into the pot than it broke into 100 pieces, as it couldn't stand the heavy weight of the animal. Yutin was at once ordered to make a stronger pot, and see that you make a thick pot this time, said the king. The poor potter rushed home, and with more clay and more workers, he began to build the biggest and strongest pot in the whole of Burma. When the pot was ready, Yutin proudly delivered it to the king. The washerman was again called to the palace. Yunam, as before, arrived with his team of helpers, all ready with plenty of soap and water. The elephant was again gently lifted into the giant pot. Everyone held his breath. Many thought that the big pot would not stand the full weight of the huge animal, but to everyone's surprise, including the potters, it didn't break. Indeed, there was not so much as a small crack. Yunam now had to carry out the job of washing the elephant. As he had told the king before, he knew only how to wash the animal the way he washed clothes. So he and his helpers began to light a fire under the big pot to heat the water. But no matter how much firewood they put in, the water in the pot just couldn't heat up. After many hours of waiting, the king lost his patience and ordered the washerman to get on with his job quickly. "But your majesty," said the washerman, "the water in the pot wouldn't boil as the pot is too thick." "What we need really is a pot big enough to hold the elephant and yet thin enough for the water in it to boil." The poor potter was again sent away with orders to make the kind of pot the washerman needed. Yutin went home and again, with the help of his family and more relatives, tried to make the kind of pot the washerman wanted. He made heavy pots and thick pots, tall pots and short pots, round pots and square pots, pots with big mouths and pots with small mouths. But he just couldn't make the kind of pot the washerman described. After many months of waiting, the king lost interest in wanting the white elephant as planned by the potter. He knew that Yutin could never finish his work. He had already spent a lot of money in buying clay for the potter, and he was in no mood to spend any more money in this way. The king told Yutin to stop work immediately and ordered him to leave the country for making a fool of his majesty. The poor potter had not only to leave, he had also to find another way to make a living, as his name as a potter was ruined. And if you stop to think about it, it was the potter who brought all this misery upon himself, and the washerman, left alone to work in peace. He became one of the richest men in Burma and was highly respected by all, including His Majesty the King.